doing our workshop at the moment, and we're getting some questions about bee stings, which is something that crops up all the time. So we thought, let's do a video about it and just elaborate on it a lot more than we can just write in the comments.
Right.
So let's talk about it. Bee stings. First of all, if you ever have any sort of significant reaction to a bee sting, always talk to your doctor about it.
Definitely.
Let them know you want to keep bees, and that take their advice on it as a prerequisite to everything.
Right. Now understand, people are always going to have some kind of a reaction to a bee sting, and there's varying levels of reactions. Anything just from a little bump to a little bit of an itch to some swelling, and part of that is normal to have some type of reaction.
That's right.
But those who have a dangerous one.
Yeah, if you've ever got any breathing issues related to a bee sting, this is something to take extremely seriously and see a doctor about. Right. And also, just as a clarification, there's a difference between being stung by a hornet or a yellow jacket or a wasp and a honeybee, because they have a very different venom. One's very alkali, one's very acidic. And so you may react to one kind of bee sting and not react particularly badly to another type of bee sting. You may have no significant reaction. So all is not lost. If you think you've got a bee sting allergy, talk to your doctor about it. But the best thing to do also is avoid bee stings in the first place.
Yes.
So why do bee stings? Why do honeybees sting? At any rate, yellow jackets, hornets, and wasps, they're just
different critter.
They're just
they're nasty
a-holes anyway.
They are. They sting because they can, and they sting multiple times just because they're jerks.
That's right. Yeah. But the honeybee will sting as a defensive reaction. If they feel they are being threatened, or their colony in particular is being threatened, then they will, in defense, sting. They'll usually target dark colors. They will be some variation in some things will set a hive up to being more likely to sting than other things. So, for example, in a warm, sunny spring day with the temperatures in the 70s and the sun shining and no particular wind, you'll find you open up a hive and the bees hardly react at all.
Right.
Especially if you use smoke.
Right.
And we'll come back to using smoke in a minute. But on other occasions, you will find that the bees tell you, go away. And those are occasions like if it's getting windy, if the clouds are coming over and it's getting threat of rain. The bees can tell it's going to rain well before you do.
Yeah. Or if it is raining.
Or if it is raining.
Starts raining.
So these are times where you're best just close up the hive and do your beekeeping inspection another day. Always look at the weather forecast. But there are some more hidden ways that colonies will be a bit more aggressive. They might be getting disturbed by critters or some such thing. We'll do another video in the future on this more detailed subject as to how to deal with hives that are being relatively aggressive. What we're going to deal with now is what are the things that you can do to protect yourself to avoid getting those bee stings anyway, because none of us like getting bee stings.
No. We don't get stung a lot. Some people think you keep bees, you're going to get stung every time you go in the hive, and that's just not true.
I mean, as a kid keeping bees, I wasn't stung by my bees during the time I was a teenager. I kept bees for 5 or 6 years while I was a teenager. I never got stung by them. It's only when I started having more hives and taking things more casually that then you tend to get stung. And the times you tend to get stung are when you're a little bit careless.
Right.
And so we're going to talk to you a few of the things the precautions you can take to avoid getting stung in the first place. So first of all, of course, as we say, choose your time, choose your weather, choose the conditions.
And use smoke.
And use smoke. And so the right time of day, warmest part of the day, minimum wind, that sort of thing, that's what you're looking for. Smoke is very important because it's going to reduce the probability that the hive gets agitated. Smoke will block the transmission of pheromones between bees that are alarm pheromones. Those are the pheromones that set the bees on alert because one bee has sensed danger, it's released alarm pheromone, and therefore the whole colony is starting to sense danger and therefore is more likely to react. Smoke blocks the transmission of that alarm pheromone. That's the most significant effect. Also makes them eat up some honey, which also makes them much more docile as
Kind of
well.
like after Thanksgiving. The more you eat, the less you want to do
this
anything.
last week we weren't very likely to
That's
sting.
right. That's right.
I don't think so. So next of all, it's protective gear. And some people will tell you, oh, if you're a beekeeper, you shouldn't be wearing gloves. You don't have to wear protection, that sort of thing. You're not a real beekeeper if you're doing that sort of thing.
Wrong.
What a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
Basically, I would suggest that you dress yourselves according to your level of experience and confidence. If you don't mind getting stung, by all means, it's okay getting stung if you're not allergic to bee stings and things. Yeah, it's fine. I don't like getting stung, so I wear protective gear. There are, first of all, gloves. Some people will use nitrile gloves because they want to be able to feel everything. I wear leather gloves because I don't want to get stung.
Yeah, so
nitrile gloves, the bees will sting very easily through. They're less likely to, but I would still wear a good quality beekeeping glove that you haven't used for other purposes like chemicals or garden sprays or anything like that. Nice clean pair of beekeeping gloves.
And you want the ones that, some of the ones that work the best are the ones that are not just the gloves, but they actually extends up your arm a little distance as well.
Oh,
just
certainly.
an added protection, added level of protection.
Because the majority of bee stings come because the bees get in behind the defenses.
Yeah.
So if you're wearing short gloves, they get between your sleeve and the glove, you get stung on the wrist.
You do.
Same on your feet. You want to make sure that your pants are tucked into your boots, or that if your pants are over your boot, and I would recommend boots, not slippers or
Definitely not slippers.
or
No
sneakers
sneakers.
or something like that. Certainly no open-toed shoes and things, because
No
these are the vulnerable places. If you need to, tape up the wrists and the ankles, but make sure that the bees can't get in there. But here's a couple of tips as well on stuff that you think is safe, and this is where most people get stung, I'd say. First of all, the veil.
Now, for those of you just starting out, there are some people who just wear the veil and maybe a long sleeve shirt. For those of you just starting out, I would wear a full jacket or a full suit.
I would recommend that as well. But typically, this type of veil is one where you've got string that comes out. Let's see if you can do it. It usually comes down at the back of the veil, so it goes down behind you. It comes up the front under your arms on both sides, and then it will tie on to little tabs like this. And there's two on the front of this veil, so your string comes down, you wrap it around your waist, you go up through these little loops here, and then pull it down. So the veil is pulled down tight behind you and tight in front of you, making a nice nice tight fit over your shoulders so bees can't get in. The other thing you have to watch out for is that these veils can pop above the helmet like that, leaving behind little gaps. So these are good to keep bees off. They're not a robust means of keeping bees off you, and they're only going to protect your neck, your face, which is the most important, because that's the one place you don't want to get stung is in the face.
That's the worst place to get stung.
Yeah. But then there's other ways. A very common bee suit and this you would assume has really good protection, and 9 out of 10 times you're well protected in a suit like this. But this is only a single layer of cotton. So first of all, with a single layer of cotton, remember you're dealing with bees in 90-degree heat, and you're going to be sweating, and when this gets wet, it'll stick to your skin, and bees can sting through a single layer of cotton. They're not likely to, but they can. And if they're getting agitated, then they will try to. And they will target areas where they can see the heat. They can see heat. And if you've got a wet spot on your suit, touching your bare skin, which is wet from sweat, they can see that heat and they'll target that area. So these type of veils, these type of bee suits tend to be a little vulnerable, particularly in really hot weather. They're also pretty heavy in pretty hot weather as well, for that matter. Now, the other thing is, depending on the type of veil, this is a fencing veil. And you will see on these type of veils that unless they're secured properly, the veil can go back and hit and touch your face, touch your nose, touch your chin. So this type of veil without some sort of ribbing on the top will tend to be a bit vulnerable to a breeze blowing this, or you bump into it and it pushes up against your nose and your face. That's a bit of a problem, because you could get stung on the tip of the nose or on your chin. So we often would wear a peak cap to stop it touching the tip of your nose. So that will prevent them touching your nose, especially if you pull this tab, Velcro tab, right down tight to the lowest point so that it's nice and firm here. So remember, the Velcro tab wants to be securely down, but also it can touch your chin. And so a good idea is to have a bushy beard. Sorry about that, Amy.
Yeah.
Or just that pulling the tab down is the best thing. But be aware of the veil touching your face. If you encounter it touching your face, do some maneuvering around to try to avoid it touching your chin. Mm-hmm. Might even be just putting a Band-Aid on your chin or something like that.
But I'll tell you, those tabs, and a lot of people just, when you zip them up, they just push the tab in and don't think to actually pull it out and down a little bit, and then that just pulls that veil forward. Yeah.
But let's use the triple layered suit while we're talking about the veils.
This is the Cadillac.
This is more of the Cadillac, almost there. Yeah. We've got where's our rib here? Here it is. It's in the pocket right now. Now, in this suit, this jacket here, there's a rib, and there's a little Velcro tab here, and you can put this little thing, it's like a popsicle stick. It goes inside, and then the Velcro goes back on, and this stops the veil from collapsing against your face. So that helps a lot, keeping it away from both your chin and your nose. So look at your bee suits before you do. Again, you've got the Velcro tab here, but what I'm going to go through over this is the way I think that most people get a bee in their veil. Because there's nothing, I hate getting bees in my veil.
It's nothing worse, because you know what's coming.
Yeah, and I used to make this mistake all the time. But what you're going to notice when you're looking at these suits is that you've got 3 zips. You've got this one that goes to the left. You've got another one here that goes to the right. But notice there's about a 2-inch overlap here. Mm-hmm. And there's a 3rd zip which goes down. Okay, so this first zip almost always gets zipped all the way up first. So the mistake that a lot of folks make is they zip up like that. Whereas what you want to do is zip up all the way, thank you, all the way past these zippers. And that way it's sealed up there. The next one is you want to look in the mirror or have a friend help you so you know which is the next zip to go over. And this is the one that goes, the second one. So in this case, it's the one from the right, goes again all the way across, and make sure the tab is tucked in. And finally, you've got the 3rd zip. So you notice how this overlaps the vertical zip, and then the 3rd zip goes across. This one goes inside
and
there.
You need to tuck in that.
You got to make sure any tabs like this are tucked in. Yeah. And then that zip goes all the way across there. So you've got a zip that goes all the way up to here, a zip that goes over to here, and then this zip that goes all the way over this way. All 3 are overlapping each other, so bees cannot get into this space. Finally, you've got this tab, which gets pulled down and makes that even more secure. I'd say, if ever you get a bee in the veil, that is why.
That's how.
Unless you've torn a hole in your veil or something like that.
Yeah. Always inspect your veils prior to putting them on, because you can get little tears in the side that you're unaware of. You're walking by a tree or something like that, and you could get a little tear. Yeah. So just make sure you do a good inspection. Yeah,
but practice doing that. It's something it takes a bit of getting used to. Have somebody help or somebody check. The other thing is you can often pull this thing out and have a look down, and you can see whether or not there's any gaps there. Yeah. But remember, all the way up first of all, then across, and then overlapping. And that way the bees do not get in your veil. Right. This is really, really important.
So now that we've talked about this and we've kind of brought this jacket out, let's talk about this type of suit. This is a game changer in my opinion.
Yes. A lot more comfortable.
Especially for those who are in hot climates. climates.
Yeah, because, and even here in Maine, for 2 months of the year, it is very uncomfortable to wear a bee suit unless it's well ventilated like this. But this one, these are called triple layer ventilated suits, and they've got a layer of fine mesh on the outside, a layer of fine mesh on the inside, and in between those two layers of fine mesh, you've got a mesh, a very thick mesh, so that the whole thing is about an eighth of an inch thick, and the bees cannot sting through that, unless of course it's a bee is on the table here and you lean on it like that and you squish the 3 layers together, then potentially they can sting through that, but it's very unlikely. So under normal circumstances, the bees cannot sting through those triple layered suits. The other thing about a jacket,
well, about this type of jacket too, and we kind of mentioned it just a minute ago, the difference between, you know, passing out and not passing out in hot temperatures is this jacket. The breeze goes right through it, and the first time you wear this,
if you're used to wearing the cotton suits, and then the first time you put one of these on, you feel like you stepped out naked into the bee yard.
You're like, oh my god, I forgot to put my suit on, because then it's just that, because
the breeze is
you're not used to the breeze going through it.
It is so much more comfortable,
way better. And again, the chance of getting stung, again, the other stuff works well, this works much better, and it just the chances of getting stung are not getting stung are greatly increased with this type.
Amy also mentioned the gloves. They want to go right up your sleeve. To avoid your sleeve running up there as well, you've got little thumb tags here, or finger tags, that you put your hand through, so your glove can actually be pulled over that. Or you can do it the other way around. You can put your glove underneath your suit and put this over the glove, but either way you've got extra layers, so there's no way for bees to get in between the glove and the suit.
Right.
The other thing that you want to bear in mind is the advantage of a suit over a jacket, and that is if you've got to make sure that this waist part will fit snugly around your waist, because if you've got a jacket that's way too big and the waist part, if you bend over and you've got plumber's bottom showing on the backside there, the bees will find that too. It'll be a nice big target for them, so watch out.
Some bigger than others.
So we want a suit which is not going to give you exposed areas, and it doesn't want to be so big that it's overhanging and the bees can fly up inside it. You want to make sure that's a snug fit on your waist.
And these types of suits come in with just jacket. There are just separate pants that you can purchase, so it can be a 2-piece or it can be a 1-piece, which is even more protection.
Yeah, the 1-piece is what I wear is far better in terms of security of avoiding bee stings.
Yep. So, in just wrapping up about this, I know we talk about stings, and some of the people in this group have talked about their bee phobias and stuff like that, which I had an extreme bee phobia. We're not doing this to scare you about getting stung by bees. I mean, if you wear your protective gear, you work calmly, deliberately, you pick the right day, it's not raining, you use smoke, the chances of you getting stung are slim. Not that it won't happen, it could happen. But again, we don't get stung that much, and we've been working bees for a very, very long time. Can it happen? It can happen.
As I say, most times it's a careless act.
Something that we did.
So, for example, people going to feed their bees, say, I'm just going to put that feeder in the entrance of the hive. I'm not going to put my suit on, zap on the finger.
Yeah.
So it's when we getting too comfortable and we don't protect ourselves that a sting can happen.
Yeah.
But otherwise, the bees are really happy to see you.
As we are them.
Yes, that's right.
So again, just calm, deliberate, smoke, use your protective gear, inspect your protective gear, make sure it's properly donned, and you really should have no problems. And quite frankly, honeybees don't want to sting you. If they sting you, they die. As opposed to the opposites of the wasps and hornets, they sting you just because they can.
Yeah, just for the fun of it.
Over and over again. So, but they don't want to sting you. And if something does happen, there's usually a reason. So, again, pay attention to your hives, listen to your hive. And when I say listen to your hive, if you're working your hives and all of a sudden it starts to get a little bit louder and they sound differently, it's time to close it up.
That's
They're telling
right.
you
So
something.
the bees start running. They start moving more rapidly.
Yeah.
The noise, the buzz starts to get more significant. These are all signs that the bees are saying, go away.
Yep, time for you to
if
leave.
they're running onto your hands and that sort of thing, running away, if they're bouncing off your veil, these are all signs to say they've had enough, either a bit more smoke or it's time to close up the hive. So treat your bees gently, and you're going to find that they're going to treat you gently. And just take the suitable precautions, and you should be able to minimize the chances of getting stung to being quite remote.